One of the topics that we've discussed extensively on this channel is economic impact. And you as a group understanding your economic impact. When I say group, I don't mean everybody in the world. I mean your own group, and understanding economic impact and how you can leverage economic impact or as a positive or a negative to get what you want to get out of this world. And here's a really good example of a group being able to leverage their economic impact to make sure that people understand that they're displeased with something, and then taking their positive economic impact and putting that in another direction for people who are going to give them what they ask for. Here's a press release from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated on July 26, 2023. The president, Dr. Willis L. Lonzer III, announced the relocation of the fraternity's convention from Orlando, Florida, scheduled to take place in 2025, due to Governor Ron DeSantis' harmful, racist, and insensitive policies against the Black community. So he's quoted, "In this environment of manufactured division and attacks on the Black community, Alpha Phi Alpha refuses to direct a projected $4.6 million convention economic impact to a place hostile to the communities that we serve. Although we are moving our convention from Florida, Alpha Phi Alpha will continue to support the strong advocacy of Alpha Brothers and other advocates fighting for the continued assault on our communities in Florida by Governor Ron DeSantis. Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity conventions generate approximately $4.6 million in economic impact." Now, people are going to look at that and going to say, well, we can look at the overall money generated from tourism dollars in the state of Florida, and we may feel that this particular $4.6 million is a small piece of that pie. And they would be correct. They look at the overall pie, it's a small piece. But what I want you to understand something is that, first, everything big had a small beginning. And all you can do is control your group. You can't control other groups. And what Alpha Phi Alpha, is coming out, they're coming out with structure, organization, rules, and regulation, which is what I've been talking about. And they're coming out with an organization. And as the organization, they're saying that we're going to pull our dollars out of the state of Florida because we're not going to support a state government and a state organization that is in violation with our organization. So they're acting on an organizational level. They're acting as a group. They're not acting as a bunch of individuals. Now, members of this particular fraternity, they can choose to visit Florida on their own, but that's what they've done on their own. But the organization has said that, you know what, we are no longer going to hold organization conference in this particular state, because the state of Florida, and with the governor is essentially the CEO of the state of Florida, and the government of the state of Florida is an organization, right? It really is a structure. They're in opposition and they're an enemy of what we're trying to do. So therefore, why would we sustain our enemy with our money? And I think this is what goes over the head of a lot of people, because they don't understand organization. They don't understand moving as a group. What they want to do is argue over whether or not it should take place, which means what? The same scenario keeps happening. What they're also doing is they're going to come up with something that is going to be parallel to what they've already done. So let's say we're not going to have this particular conference in Florida 2025. We will have it in an alternative location. They can go to Vegas. They can go to Texas. They can go to Cali. There's a lot of places they can go, and they can still have the conference that they were looking to have. They're just not going to do it in Orlando. Orlando has a very, what I would say, robust conference schedule. It's very, very built out. It brings in a lot of money. The convention center area around Orlando is crazy. The amount of money that is on that particular strip around International, it'll blow people's minds, especially if you go there, especially in the evening on the weekend. But it'll blow your mind how busy that place is. However, all you can do as organization is choose to divest or pull your organization situation away from things that don't work for you. Now, like I said again, this is not an individual thing, because individuals are never going to be as important as groups. Because most individuals can't pull 4.6 million out of anything, right? Because it means they got more than 4.6 million to deal with from the gate. Therefore, when you understand, when you're working as a group and you actually have group consensus, and we actually have people that are part of the organization that are committed to moving as a group, you can get rid of the arguing. You can get rid of making a million YouTube videos. You don't need a bunch of people doing think pieces for 3 hours on YouTube. You don't need 9-hour YouTube live streams. You don't need the double-mindedness to where we want to be with these people, but then when they do something we don't like, we get upset because they did it. But if you want to be with them, you got to take what come with them. When you have group consensus and you're moving as a group, we determine what's the best thing for the long-term goals of the group, and then everybody moves in that direction, and we just see who stays on the path and who breaks out because they want to do their own individual thing. You understand me? And so this is what I want you to understand. Your economic impact as a group may not be, in the $1 trillion level. It may not be on the $1 billion level. But all you can do is choose to not participate in things. Years ago, the Florida Classic used to be held in the city of Tampa. But I knew people in my family that went to both those colleges, right? So they would go to the quote unquote Florida Classic. This is when it was in Tampa. And they would tell me how Tampa really was not a good host of that particular event. And eventually what happened is the organizers of that event got dissatisfied and they started getting courted by, I think Orlando has a tourism board. And that tourism board in Orlando laid it out for them and let them know, hey, if you come to Orlando, this is what we can do for you. Now, Orlando and Tampa are not even 45 minutes to an hour apart from each other. But Orlando's ability to make the people feel comfortable in that city was totally different than what Tampa was doing. Tampa was taking that event for granted. And it was shown by the way in which they were treating people. Orlando was a much better host city than Tampa ever will be. So what happened is the Classic moved to Orlando. You can now create synergies with Disney. You can create synergies with all these different other places because why? We're bringing in thousands of people for this particular 3-day event. Economic impact is in the double-digit millions just over that weekend. Everybody eats off that event. Restaurants eat, gas stations eat, hotels eat, theme parks eat, the clubs eat, Church Street, people that know Orlando, Church Street Exchange eats. Everybody eats off that event. And it's because Orlando was willing to be a good host for that particular event. And people that think the Classic is a bunch of women walking around, half dressed and a bunch of guys driving cars, it's because you're on the bottom of the situation. The Classic also has golf events. The Classic also has women's tea events. The Classic also has networking events. But because you're at the bottom of the situation where you're just hanging out with your feet on the street, you think the Classic is the football game and a bunch of women walking around half dressed and people with cars. Like I said, that's your exposure. So because people understood who the Classic was actually bringing into the city, Orlando courted that particular event, and they've been holding that event in Orlando probably going on over a decade now. It's been very successful and it makes people a lot of money. So what those people did was they took their money from Tampa, they divested out of Tampa, they invested back into Orlando, and Orlando was willing to host that event to make that thing keep going. And that's what I want people to understand. Where you spend your money is going to always be important. Stop trying to force people to take your money when they don't treat you the way you want to be treated. And it don't even have to be you personally. You just might not like something they did. There's people in this quote unquote social space. I never work with them to save my life because why? I don't like how they move. It's not enough money for me to work with them. Right? When you are moving a certain way, if you don't like what somebody does, they don't get any of your money. And it doesn't mean, they didn't do anything to them personally. No, we just don't like how you're moving out here. And as a result, you won't get any of our money. And then we're going to tell all our people not to deal with you. And that's how it's going to go. Another example of this strategy, and we saw this recently when Ari Emanuel, he used his influence and his power to get business deals taken away from Kanye West because he didn't like things that Kanye West was saying. And here's an old article from the Financial Times. We talked about this earlier. This is from Ari Emanuel, who's a real big time guy in the entertainment space and in that, transfers to other business areas. It's not enough for Twitter to lock the rapper Kanye West out of his accounts following his anti-Semitic tweet. West's business partners across the fashion and entertainment industries also need to speak out and take action. Apple and Spotify, which host West Music, which organize West tours, and Adidas, which collaborates with West on his fashion line, should all stop working with him. The parent company of Parler, the Twitter competitor, should refuse to sell to West. And what he's advocating for is that all business activity around Kanye West be cut off and be extinguished, so that therefore we can isolate him and get him back in line, because essentially what we do is we cut off his ability to earn a living in the entertainment space. This type of economic warfare is not anything new. It's been going on for years. And what Emmanuel is not saying is that, well, we just want Kanye West to understand us. And so what we'll do is we'll keep doing business with him and then hope that one day he understands our position. His narrative was that we need to cut off everything from Kanye West, and that'll teach him what to say and what not to say. And it's just a matter of perspective. When you have a group of people where they've been programmed to think that if I can just get these people to like me, if you notice, it's never their people. It's always if I can get these people to just understand what I'm going through, then maybe one day things can get better. They never take the particular stance that Emmanuel took. Right? He wasn't trying to get any understanding with Kanye West. His attitude is we're going to cut everything off and then that's going to get him back in line. And we saw that's essentially what happened. So I just want you to understand it's a matter of conditioning. It's a matter of socialization. And it's a matter of how you see yourself in your group. And that determines what actions you take to get what you want out of this world. And then you can choose to correct your behavior or you can choose to stand on it. And that's cool either way it goes. Tampa chose to stand on what they wanted to do. Everything moved to Orlando. The ball keep rolling. Tampa got to figure it out on their own. And that's how the game works. So I want you to really understand that when you decide to empower yourself, you cut out the arguments. You cut out the disagreeing with people. You do what you say you're going to do. You stand on it. You move forward with things and you develop new relationships and new partnerships with people that want to work with you based on what you're standing on, and you move forward. But you have to have some type of economic ability to do that. When you're always looking for somebody to give you something, or you're looking to give people your money that don't want to do business with you and that's how they treat you, well, then you're not in a good position to start dictating and ask, right? So I hope you got some value from it. Talk to you later.